Okay, good morning. It's Monday, August 3rd, and this session is going to be from 8 o'clock to 9:30. Bear with me today. Looks like I'm going to be by myself in the room today. Brian had to start school, and so he's at school, and Matt's at the hospital with his wife who's having a baby. So it looks like it's just going to be just you and us this morning. Let me get through the disclaimers. And trading forex exchange on margin carries a high level of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. The high degree of leverage can work against you as well as for you. Before deciding to invest in foreign exchange, you should carefully consider your investment objectives, level of experience, and risk appetite. The possibility exists that you could sustain the loss of some or all of your initial investments, and therefore you should not invest money that you cannot afford to lose. You should be aware that all the risks associated with foreign exchange trading and seek advice from an independent financial advisor if you have any doubts. This is a live trading room for educational purposes only. No financial advice or recommendations will be provided. Any trades taken during this live session is not a recommendation or suggestion that you should also do the same. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Do not trade money that you cannot afford to lose. Before trading, always operate with a written trade plan that identifies rules for entries, exit targets, and risk management. And having said that, let's get started. We have the US Swiss that had an alert at, well, we just had another alert here. It was at 6:45. We just had another one for the US Swiss at 8 o'clock. And you can see that's probably pretty much already out of the chute where the 8 o'clock was. Let me show, I need to show my screen. And I would appreciate if anybody has any questions or comments, put them in the question answer box. I'll do my best to try and keep on top of all these. And just bear with me. Like I said, I'll be looking at charts. I'll be looking at trying to stay on top of the chat box. But anyway, we'll do the best we can, and we'll just move on. So with US Swiss, we had one at, first off, can everybody get a check mark or a hand that's saying everybody can see my screen okay? Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Leslie. All right, the US Swiss, we had an alert at 6:45 this morning. They said it was an ascending or descending wedge, and I could not, the only way I could get a descending wedge out of this thing was to go all the way back a couple of days, all the way back to this level. So what I did was I drew the levels between here and here for a zone that I'm looking at. And, but I just drew the wedge the way I would normally do with a little bit of a slight upward trend. And then we had the breakout right here. And you can see where it did break out and it's already up. It already reached the 7 pips and it's still climbing. And so this trade is pretty much over. This was the original wedge. We can redraw this. It's still showing descending. So it's basically it's looking at this area right in here for the, so 8 o'clock would be right in this area right there. And I'll go back to with a 15-minute chart. We'll just redraw this and see what we can come up with here. I'm still going to use this area. Well, the fact it broke out and it seems to be well on its way. I'm going to use this for my BD. I'm going to go and slide this over to the top of this. This is where, again, this is where the other level was. Rather than draw it all the way over here, I'm going to use this for the reference. So I'm not sure how well this is going to work. Let me just see here. Usually I don't go back 2 days or 3 days to find a key here, but let me draw this over here. We'll see what the trend on the wedge looks like. And here's where the peak of it was. And we're just going to flatten this one out a little bit. So this is not what I would call a really good scenario here because it's already, we had an alert on an alert an hour and a half apart, 15 minutes apart. And right now it's hard to say which way this thing's going to go. There isn't a whole lot of room to the upside from, well, basically it's already across this area. So basically we're looking at this area up here. Since it already broke, I'm going to move it up here for the descending part. So this is the area that we're looking at. This would be the next zone that we'd be looking for a target. It's not up to that area yet. And let's see. So this is on a 3 hour. Let me get this back to a 15-minute chart. And we're just going to take this from down here, and then we're just going to flatten this out. I'm trying to get a wedge up here to the top. We have a little bit of a trend going on up here with the 15 minutes. So we're just going to kind of use that to follow. Since it already broke out, we'll just use this as a trend following type of instrument here. And so I'm just going to bring the D to right around this area. Since this trade is already off, I'm going to take this one off. And we'll see what we can do from here on in. I'll tweak this on right there. Try and tuck these in as tight as I can. I'll put the B. I'm going to use this for the D. And this will be the trend that we'll be looking at to follow. All the moving averages are in the right direction. So we can only go with what we have to work with here. It is starting to retrace back a little bit, but like I said, I'm not so sure that this is going to be anything that we want to follow at this point in time. So far, are there any questions? Okay. And let's see, what else? This is a Monday morning. So one thing about Monday mornings is I try not to be too anxious to take trades on Monday. We're trying to get a chance for letting the markets get settled in for the week. We're going to check our Forex factory for some news. And let's see, what kind of news do we have this week? This is Sunday. Nothing last night. And then if we go to Monday, we're going to have, we have a little bit of a red folder here on the US at 10 o'clock this morning. Banking holiday in Canada. And nothing, so if there's anything going with the Canadian dollar, we'll probably pass on that just because if the bankers are having a holiday, then there's probably not going to be a lot of volume to it. And you're better off just staying away from those. Other than that, not too much for today. There's several red folders for tomorrow, and also this Friday is non-farm payroll reports, so there'll be a lot of volatility. You can expect a lot of volatility on Friday with that report. That comes every first Friday of the month, every month. And so really nothing too much going on until tomorrow. There's a couple of red folders for the Aussie and New Zealand. Let's see. Yeah, I don't like Jay. I don't like the look of this U.S. Swiss either. I'm staying away from it. It did have a nice the breakout this morning earlier was probably the better breakout. I'm looking at this being a possible retracement, and I could also see where the fact that it's we're at a 3 hour level all the way back to where we actually started kind of looking to draw this wedge on this, and if you're all the way back here to last week. This thing has quite a bit of room to come down. Oftentimes you say about looking for the major pivot highs, pivot lows. Well, this is definitely a pivot low. And if we look to see where this thing came from, it's still it's in a fairly strong downtrend from all the way from the middle of July. A lot of this has to do with the weakening of the US dollar. So if we look at this from this standpoint, I'm going to be looking a little bit more on a higher time frame, which I generally don't do too much when these wedges are. But I think we need to try and look a little bit at what we're dealing with here. And right now, this is about a 38% retracement right up into this zone. And oftentimes when you get a strong move down and you get a short retracement like this back into this area, it's not unlikely to be able to expect a target zone down in this area here for ultimate target. So this could be actually turned into a very good short. But I wouldn't, but we'll just have to just keep in mind that this area is down here. And see how far do we have to go to in order to get to see where that area would be. I don't think it's ever been that. It's been all the way back in several years anyway. Let me see. There we go. We have to go all the way back to August of May 14th in 2014 to get back to this area. But that doesn't mean it couldn't happen just with the weakening of the dollar like it's been and with all the craziness in the world going on. So I'm going to keep this on the chart as a potential target. But you can see it had a nice strong move last month coming back up. This is the beginning of the month. So this thing could very well come down and retest this area. Again, this is only the first real trading day of the new month in August. So we just want to make sure we have all of our ducks in a row and we have a plan ahead to see what we can possibly come up with. Let's see, you're looking at the NZD. Let's see what that one's looking like. I didn't get an alert. We did get an alert on that in the middle of the night last night, NZD USD at 445. Let's take a look at that one. Actually, let's before we do that, let's take a look at this Aussie. This is the one that we had at 6:30. It still is in the hasn't broke out of the wedge yet, so that could be a possibility. We have all of our moving averages look like they're in the right direction on all three time frames. It's showing strength of the U.S. dollar. The U.S. dollar is the second currency of the pair, and so that means we're looking for it to go short. So if we do get a breakout, this would be the first zone we'd be looking at over here in the this area. And this is all it comes probably back to the middle of last week, but pretty much. So we'll pay attention to this area. Like I said, we come all the way over to the left and see where we can find an area where it was last retraced to. And we had a nice move up, came back, tested the area, came back up. I believe we've already taken through this area. This is where the B is. And a nice move up. So right now, this is a strong area of consideration here. Let's see if this, I'm gonna mark where our B anchor is for reference. All we're doing by using these references, we're planning targets and just seeing where zones, where we could expect that if it breaks the wedge, where we could expect it to break out and give us a target. Let's see where this is a strong level right here. So all of our, right now is still showing strength by 3. We have our wedge set up. I'm going to put a trend line on the bottom, 2 pips underneath to try and get our 2 pips zone, our entry zone. And I'm going to pull this down to 90, 70, 95. And we're going to make that an entry 2 sell. I'll lock that in. And we wait. Let me see if there's anything else is going on here. We were looking, you did mention the New Zealand. Let's take a look at that while we're waiting. I'm going to set an alert on this. Set an alert just so that for hmm. Let's see if I got the alert set here. Somehow my alert's not working. That's not good. Okay. I'll just have to keep an eye. Let's start to make a nice little move. We'll stay on this one for a little bit right now. I do like that our whole moving averages are all red on all three. We got the RSIs are below the 60-40 zone. Dollar is showing strength. This is on the 1 minute, and let's just see how it looks on the other two time frames. This is showing one red, one green, and so right now it's showing weakness. And we'll see if it breaks out the bottom here. So this alert was at 6:30 this morning, and now it's almost it's 8:15. So it's been almost 2 hours while it's been meandering around. The moving averages are all in the right order for the 1 minute, 5 minute, and 15 both. So if we get if this thing comes down and breaks, I like to see it base a little bit where we get like a red candle followed by a little blue candle, then a strong red candle down. If we can see it doing that to right in this area, that would be a good sign that it's going to break to the downside. Put some Fibonacci numbers in here. Right now it's hanging right around the red fib line, which is up here. And oftentimes you'll see it goes from the blue to the blue. This red line here would be our target, which is the blue line on the 1 minute chart. So we need to get the breakout first. Yes, it is respecting the wedge. So this was a descending wedge. Now, when I drew this D was actually right here at this point right here. Here's where the alert was, which means this candle wasn't formed yet. I did see that once this candle formed and it went right back up strong into the wedge, I decided to move this D right down. Since it was right on where the alert was, I decided to move the D down to the bottom of that pivot. So yours is a little bit different, that's why. And you can see this is the reason why we don't want to try and take them too early, because you can see where if it didn't break the pivot, break the wedge, a lot of times it'll just go right back in. And then we're only looking at 7 pip stop losses, and I say 7 to 10 pips. Sometimes 7 is a little bit tight, but we usually try to keep it within 7 pips, and then going for a 5 to 7 pip target is all we're doing. The fact that the alert was, this is where the alert was. This is such a strong angle coming down. I usually I don't like having quite that strong of an angle. And so what I'll do is I'll draw a wedge within a wedge. So we have the basic big wedge here, but you can see this is a nice strong move down, came back up, it's retesting, and it's looking for the breakout. So it's not uncommon to go ahead and take the pivot high. This is where the nice move just came down. So I'm going to take this pivot right here, take it down to the D, take it back up to here, and I'm going to flatten it out on the bottom and just see if, because that way when this thing does break, we have a little bit of a trend line that we can follow it along with. I'm going on my 1 minute chart. Do we have any questions so far while we're waiting? You find out you spend a lot of time waiting and just watching. But as you're watching the price movement, it's just, you can start studying the price action and just see how it respects certain levels previous to it. I said you can always just go to where the current price is and go to the left. And that's where you see where there was where the price was, where it rejected it, came back down, and it rejected it again. Eventually, what happens is there's some buy orders down here, and once all those buy orders get chewed up, that's when it starts to break. It's just strictly, it's a battle between the buyers and the sellers. So, okay, as you can see right now, this is a zone that we're looking at for rejection. So if it can't penetrate through this area up here on the US Swiss, then it could be an indication that's going to be turning around. We're going to mark this up as for an area. Let's go back to our Aussie. Still sitting here playing around in the bottom of the wedge area. And can everybody still hear me? Just want to double check. I think I may have had some mic problems there. Yeah, someone could give me a little raise your hand or something like that so I know that you can hear me. There we go. Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate that. Is there any pair that anybody would like to look at while we're sitting here waiting? And so right now all we do is we sit on our hands. Right now the Aussie is the best candidate right now that we have right now going on. I said it was started off at 6:30 and I did redraw. Here's where the original, let's see, here's where the original alert was at 6:30. I did slide my C over here to it was a descending wedge. And I just slid my C over here a little bit. After it was all the way up at the top here, but once I got a couple little pivots here, I just slid it over here just for a little bit of a reference. I'm still looking at this this area up here where the A is to break to the up if it breaks the upside. So this was a descending wedge, and just using this for the reference. Let's take a look over here on the 15-minute chart. I'll show you how we drew that, how I drew this one. Like I said, we have a bigger picture wedge. It said it was a descending wedge. And so what I was looking at doing, what I looked to do is try to find a significant pivot high from this was Sunday. So all this was pretty much the overnight on the new week. So I started using with the descending from the A up here, brought my B is all the way in the back for the last previous pivot. And actually we probably could take it all the way to, since the reason why I took this one is because where the alert was, it already took out this point, this point, this point. So anything I could do is go down to the next area, which would be either here or here. And I'm trying to draw the lines, trying to find out where I can find the next significant hit Let me take this one. Oh, this one's getting a little confusing here. And so this is the closest candle to where the alert was in reference to where I plan it might be. And there's really no other point in between that would be significant. Yeah, I'm not really liking any of these trades this morning so far. I show a reference to where my A mark is, or the B rather, excuse me. Actually, I'm going to change the color of this just so we can see for the little bit of a reference here. Let's see, yellow reference. I'll make this one blue here just to change the color a little bit. Zealand broke out of the wedge, huh? Let's see where that one is. Let's see, that one was at 4:45 this morning. So that's where the alert was. And it was a descending wedge. This one looks a little bit better, actually. So here's a pivot high, here's a pivot low. It was descending. So I'm going to start my A up here. Bring my B down to the last previous pivot high. Here's where the last one before the alert. And we're going to put it here. And I have a little bit of a hit here, a hit here, and a hit here. It does look like it's breaking out right now. I'll take this one up a little bit higher, get a little trend line going on with that. Let's go over to the 1 minute chart. There's a hit. Let's look for a 2.2 period breakout area. So here's a zone. That's 2018.6. Right about there. Here's the breakout. All of our we have three whole moving averages. The US dollar is a second pair that's showing strength on the 1 minute. We have a nice spread on the 15, 5, and 1. And yes, you could take this trade. You can see where it was basing. We had a nice red candle in that didn't close into the wedge. This one did. The second candle broke in. We had a nice pullback with the blue candle, tagged the wedge. And so this is a zone where we were able to, this was a good zone to get in. If it comes back and retests that, you can maybe take another shot at getting in if you missed it. Yeah, let's see where our fib zones are. Should be 7 pips between this green one and the blue one. That was a good call on the breakout of the wedge on that one. Good job, Jay. We'll see if this thing still has a little bit of oomph. I don't like chasing trades. It comes back and gives us another chance to retest this area. If it comes up and tags this green line, if it passes it, checks it, it may be going on up. But right now, this looks like it's trying to base a little bit. Everything still looks pretty much in favor of the US dollar going short. Let's see where a possible target would be. This was one target way over here that we were looking at. We actually had a wedge over here last week. Let's see how far back this goes. Here's the target here. This one was broken. And this would be the next area. Let's see, right about in here would probably be the next area that you'd be looking at for a target, potentially. You see that's right by this red fib line. Actually, we'll see if we can get one of these RSIs to pull up and hook. Might give us another chance to continue with this one. So this right here would be the next target. Actually, got the blue line right here. That's one area that you have to be careful of. Those are Aussie doing. Aussie's starting to break out the bottom as well. It broke out the bottom. We have a strong wick, came back up into the wedge. Looks like it's maybe following suit with the New Zealand. This red candle came back. Here's a wedge on the Aussie. First red candle came in, just touched the wedge. Second one broke, came back, retested the strong area. Now it came back down. It's into the wedge. This would be a good area to go short. All the indicators are in alignment. All of our moving averages are in alignment. You can take a shot at this one. Oh, Jay, good. You got your 7 pips on that. Yeah, sometimes you have to wait a long time. Try not to have to wait too long, but sometimes it just takes a while for it to break out. As you see, the Aussie starting to follow suit with the New Zealand. They look an awful lot the same. Let me take this off. See if we can see a little bit more price action with this on the 15-minute. Nice little drop. Basically, here's that little blue candle, and now it's looking like it wants to take another shot out, heading down to the nice little basing there. We'll see if it can break through this screen fib line. And then this will be the target. Looking at New Zealand, New Zealand is coming right down here. This is the target right here with this red fib line right here. Looks like it's starting to come down to. We had a nice drop. It based. Now it's dropping, and then you should be getting close to getting your 7 pips with this. Did anybody have any questions? If you do, you can type type them in the question and answer box. New alert, New Zealand at 8:30. New Zealand USD. That's the one we're actually looking at right now. Euro USD. We want to take a look at. All right, we have our target set for the New Zealand. So let's take a look at the Euro USD. There was a request for that. Let me get that set up. Let's see with the Euro USD. This was, I'm going to put this on a higher time frame. We don't have an alert for the Euro USD. We did have one at 4:45 this morning. Hang on a second here. Let me take a look at this. See what time this was at 8:30. I'm going to double check this New Zealand before we go to that one. Yeah, the 8:30. This is this was right where it broke. We didn't have much time on that one. From that 8:30 alert on the New Zealand, this one's already pretty much out of the chute here. And this thing could still keep on going for a while. Let's just check and see where a potential target for this one is. And we'll go to a higher time frame, see if we can find something over here. All right, just broke this candle here. So right now, this would be the area that I'd be looking at this thing to be heading to. Be this area right down in here. This is the New Zealand still. So you can keep an eye on that. That's at 65.83 to the 65.70 zone. Busy morning this morning. Started off kind of slow. Looking at the 15-minute target zones. Let's go to a 5-minute. And that's right in between this red zone of 65.87 and the 65.67. So there's 20 pip zone right in this area. So I'll keep that in mind for a target. Euro USD, let's see what we have here. We had I'm going to erase everything on this, and we're going to start with the alert when we had the alert at 4:45. That was the alert. And it was a descending wedge. Again, I'm going to look back and see where the previous pivot high and low was before. Here's Sunday's opening. And I'm looking to see where the high of Friday's high, it looks like Thursday's low would be significant. I'm going to be, since it's descending, I'm going to use this more for the reference. I'll tell you what, we're just going to use, since this was in the middle of the night last night, new week, I'm going to use this pivot high, this pivot low right here for descending. See if I can find a couple of hits between there and the wedge alert. I'm going to spread these out a little bit. I took this in as close to where the alert was as possible. I'll keep that where it is, and you can see where this thing broke out the bottom. That was right around 5 o'clock. This is pretty much broke out the bottom right at the London Open. And the next target area for this one is going to be, I have to look over here to the left. And I'll say, here's a pivot. Come over here. Here's a wall. Here's a pivot. That one was already broken. Coming back, I would say this is going to be the area right in here is where this thing is probably going to maybe get a little bit of a bounce. I'm going to use this pivot over here. This is on a 1 hour chart. This comes all the way back at July 28th at 4 o'clock in the morning and July 27th at 5 o'clock in the morning. Or if I would see that, let's see. Yeah, that'd be about right. So yeah, the Euro US looks like it's coming down and it's starting to correct a little bit from last month's dollar's getting a little bit stronger from last month, retracing some of its losses that it had last week. And that's the way I would draw that wedge. Just so right now, there's nothing to take on it right now. There's, you ever seen where it does form a little bit of a wedge? You had a nice strong drop. This nice little area right here where it formed another little subsequent wedge. And with this, when you see these nice strong moves down in this area like this, a lot of times you can, if you see a small retracement, which is what this wedge is doing, this would be the continuation. And I would be looking at a potential of the continuation being down from here, bring it back up to where the B is. You see that's within the 38.2 retracement. It's a little bit less than that actually. And then I'm be looking right down here for this would be a potential target area right in this area. And a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll just find the middle of the zone and then just bring it on up. And then this would be the area, and you can see it's right in this area that we drew these other target zones. And that's all I have for the Euro US for right now until we get another alert. How's our New Zealand doing? And I'll tell you what, right now it is 5 minutes before the 9 o'clock. Let's take a 5-minute break and see if there's an alert that happens at 9 o'clock and we can draw that out and see. So let's just take a 5-minute break and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, we're back. We'll see if we get any alerts coming in. We have about another 30 minutes. We can ask some questions until the meantime. Feel free. Any questions, comments? Steve, if you're still there, I'm going to promote you to being a panelist. And you're free to unmute. That way, maybe you can give me a hand here. If you're still there. And see, where did you put the target for the Aussie US? Let me see here. Where do we have this one? Right now, the target for the Aussie US is pretty much right here at the 70.87 area is the target, right below that in that area. We have a red fib line at 70.86, and I would give a little bit, maybe a little bit more before then. If you have your 7 pips, I would go ahead and maybe close that in, take the profit on that. If you have 2 positions, maybe you can let that one run, try and hit that. This 70.86 areas will be a pretty good area where you may expect a bounce right in this area. Any other questions? And let's see, we got an Aussie US alert at 9 o'clock. Let's take a look at that one since we're already in that trade. Basically what it's showing me, what it's telling me is that this thing's starting to flag a little bit. So at 9 o'clock, we have an alert. We're going to put another one in here. And the fact I'm going to remove this one just so it doesn't confuse us, but we know we're already in this trade. So I'm going to take it to 15-minute chart. I'm going to remove all my lines, start from scratch. We do have the moving averages are in the right direction, heading short. The alert was for an ascending Aussie US. A lot of times when they're ascending, why Aussie US ascending? That's interesting. The only place I see where it would be ascending would be coming all the way back here to July 24th. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this area. Here's where the price is right now, so I'm going to mark it right down from here. I'm going to take it down to this one here. This is a zone I'm looking at. And we have the alert at 9 o'clock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at a pivot high from the overnight high. I'm going to take it from this pivot up here. I'm going to start down here where I have my A to a B, tuck this in here, and then bring this one up. I'm just going to flatten out this A and C. I'm going to take it all the way over. Might as well put it on the pivot. I don't like going back that far, but I don't see any recourse in this. I'll flatten the top of this. Again, I'm not liking the way this wedge is developing here. We've already had the move down. I'm not sure where it's getting the ascending part on this. I do like this move from where we had this earlier alert, which was at 6:30. You know, 6:30 was where the original alert was. Let me draw that back in there again. This is really where I see the wedge. I see the wedge being more in this area here, and I don't see it ascending. This is already what I call a target. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a flat top to the bottom, take it here, bring it back on up, and flatten it out like that. That's how I'm going to draw this one. I'm going to use a reference from where the breakout of the first wedge alert was when it was at 6:30. This was a breakout. Now this could end up being where the reversal pattern may come into play. We have an area here where it's going to have to get through this area. And that goes back all the way back here to the 24th, I believe it was. They do have a couple other areas here. There is some room to the downside. A spot right here. And we have a spot right here. Those are all potential target zones. And let's draw this on a little, tweak it on a 1 minute chart. Tuck this thing in. And it does have a significant amount of the U.S. Aussie is not doesn't we don't have our 3-point spread on the U.S. on either one of them. There's only a 2-point spread. And we wait. I do like the Aussie for the fact we had the strong move down. If it breaks through the top of this, I'd be thinking that we may be starting to look at the retracement. We had a pretty good consolidation down here. I would not be taking this thing short right now. Any other questions while we're waiting?
It's a quiet group this morning, Al.
There you are, Eva.
Here I am. Sorry, I left the room for 5 minutes and then I noticed I was...
Yeah, I could use your help here to help watch the monitors and the questions, if you would, please. I would appreciate that.
No problem.
I'm running solo today.
Yeah, I see that. Where is everybody?
Well, Brian's back at school, and last I heard, Matt's at the hospital with his wife, who's having a baby.
Shoot! Look
So
at that.
So it sounds like it. He sounds like things happened last night. So
I guess we're actually on holiday today.
that's what I saw. There was a banking holiday, so we're not trading the U.S. CAD.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what's your holiday up there today?
they call it. It used to be called Simcoe Day. It's just a civic holiday. Just another one we threw in there, just so we could get another long weekend.
There you go. Yeah,
Oh,
right now.
isn't that exciting? And Brian's back to school already.
Yeah,
Holy
Brian's
cow.
having to. There sounds like they're doing He's got to be at school, but they're doing. This is a teacher's week, I guess. But it
Yeah.
sounds like they're going to be virtual. But he's got to be in the classroom at school for the virtual.
Oh, okay.
So it sounds like he's not going to be able to do it from home like he did last spring.
Yeah, that's a bit of a shame, but it kind of makes sense, you know. He's got all his stuff there, you know, with the blackboard and everything. So
Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's all going to work. I'm not sure he knows how well it's going to work.
yeah, I don't know.
Now, in the Aussie US right now, we do have a little bit of a basing here. We had this nice big red candle coming down. We had a little bit of a, we had a nice candle came down into where the bottom of this BD area is. And we're going to see if it's going to break. If it does break, I mean, you still have some strength on the US, not as much as I would like to see. But we do have our whole moving averages are all red all the way across the board. And so if it does break, we could be looking at these targets down here. But I would say right now, this Aussie trade earlier, that was the trade of the day. And then we had the New Zealand, which I would say was the trade of the day. And the rest of this is all, if you locked in your daily bread, I would say have a good rest of the day and do something that's less, get a little bit of, be able to get out of your chair and get a little bit of exercise, I guess.
Yeah, I missed it this morning. I missed the first half hour. I seem to be having Avon calling it. I seem to be having a bit of a problem getting on here for 8 o'clock.
I wasn't even sure I was going to be on today. Last night we lost our internet and they didn't know when it was coming back. Brian said, yeah, I'm going to be at school today. And I go, oh, great, I lost my internet. I may have to be on a remote with my laptop. I thought this isn't going to be good, but it got working again last night before I went to bed. So we're in good shape for having this.
I noticed we got quite a few AIRIS alerts in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I had the unfortunate experience of forgetting to turn my sound off my phone, and it kept on blinging all night long.
I'm not getting the sound on my AIRIS alerts, and I think I've got something turned off that I probably need to find out how to get it turned back on again.
On your phone?
Well, I'm not getting it on my phone. I'm not getting any sound alert. Well, I was getting all sound alerts on my phone, although right now my phone's not here. But I should be getting them on my desktop as well, but I'm not hearing them.
Yeah, see, I'm not getting them on my desktop, but I am getting them on my phone.
I think there's a setting with the telegrams. There's a setting to get the alerts more audio. I think what happened was we were getting so many telegram alerts, I turned the sound off on all the alerts because I was getting them like every 2 minutes. I was getting around the
Yeah,
clock, so I turned them off, and I think I need to figure out how to get them back on again.
yeah, I did the same thing. It seems that the Telegram alerts have seemed to calm down somewhat, so
Yeah.
I turned the sound back on. It's too bad you couldn't pick and choose the channels that you wanted the alerts to come through for.
Yeah. Let's see any more. Let's see if there's any more messages that I'm missing here.
I don't see anything here.
We only have a few more minutes to go before we're done with our session, but another 12 minutes. So we'll keep an eye on this. As the U.S. It said it's an ascending. Now it looks like it's more ascending, where if you look at this
Yeah,
little.
I was thinking that too, looking at it. It looks like it's forming the opposite of what they said.
Yeah, I did not see where they were getting the ascending part of this before. But I'm going to draw with this one, see if it breaks out the bottom. We have basically two. We have the bigger wedge and we have a smaller wedge here. So let's see what this thing does. The fact that this was a strong move down, this thing could, nice drop. It's spacing. If it breaks throughout, it could be heading on down to this lower level. And like I said, I'd be looking at this area right here from this, where held the first C. Come down to the A, come back up to the B. Still within our 38%, and then looking down here for the target. Then push this thing down here. This little zone right in there, if it breaks. I'd like to see a little bit more push on this.
Is that you taking profit out?
No, no. I do see this as being an area where this thing could be going. Right now, it had a nice little drop. It's spacing. It broke through the bottom. Had formed a little wedge on the bottom here. Let's see if it breaks down. And I'm looking at this zone right here. I'm going to eliminate this one. Turn this one off so we don't confuse people. Everything is still showing a short here. And we have on our 15-minute chart, RSIs are below this 40-60 area, still pointing down on all three time frames. This one has a little bit of a hook, but it hasn't come up. It's back into the 40-60 area, but if we can get another hook back down, all the whole moving averages are still red, saying it's still short. We have a spread of 3 US Aussie, still a spread of 3 on all three time frames. And we'll see.
Let's come back into the wedge a little bit.
Looking back into the wedge. Let's see if it can break through this blue fib line. It should head on down to the red one. If it can't break through, then you may want, if you are in this trade, you may want to get out if it can't break through that. And we only have a few more minutes left. Any other quick questions while we're watching this thing hopefully make some profits here? Let's just cross the blue line.
Good time for a trade.
I did take this thing short again after it broke out of the bottom of this wedge. I'm still looking for this for the target. There's still enough momentum to where it should keep on coming down. And it's coming close to the US Open. Another 5 minutes, so I will be out of this before that happens.
So I heard that there's going to be news on Thursday for the British pound. They're talking about possibly changing the interest rates, I think, to calm it down a little bit. Did you hear about that?
I did not hear about that. It seems like all the currencies are in a very tough position right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's printing and nobody's having accountability to it.
No, this
So
is
I guess if the whole world just prints away, I guess everything evens out, I guess.
The problem with the British pound is it's been running like extremely high. It's like going up and up and up incredibly. So I was wondering when the government was going to step in and do something to slow it down. And nobody's going to trade with them, right? They totally so high, nobody can compete.
Yeah. You see how this thing just bounced right off that fib line? It bounced, it closed below, came back up, now it's retesting it. Now it's going to come up and retest the wedge. And it may retest this green fib line up here. So right now these are 7 pip spread here, between here and here is your roughly 7 pips.
All right, I got out of that. I have no time for that nonsense.
Yeah, so right now we're only a couple of minutes before the U.S. market opens up, and this may have been the last little push down before the market opens. When the market opens, you might get some weakening of the dollar, or it might just move up to take a better position, and it's hard to say which way it's going to go.
Mm-hmm.
The Euro US has recovered some of its, the US has recovered some of its weakness this morning. There again, as we're looking at this for a target down here. No, but this was not a wedge alert. Actually, this was the alert, but same type of scenario where a nice strong move down, built another little wedge, broke out, and now it's looking to see, I'm looking for this for the target. Let's see if it comes up, retest the bottom of the wedge. Let's see if there any fib lines up there. We have a fib line right here, right at the bottom of the wedge. And these are 21 pips apart. So if this thing holds and this thing may get broken, then we could come all the way down to here. I said all the moving averages are in the correct position for the, and you have this yellow 13 moving average is right here trying to pop out of the bottom of the wedge. So this thing could come up, retest that, only to go down further. And that's kind of what it does. So it came up right here on the 5 minute, it's touching the 13. And at the same time it's testing the 62 on the 1 minute. And it looks like we're just about to the market open. Here's 9:30. We'll give it a few more minutes and then we're going to wrap this thing up for this morning. Any last questions before we go? Hope everybody was able to make a little bit this morning. Again, I apologize. It's it's been a one-man show, maybe a one-man show for the most of the week this week. So we'll just have to get used to it. And I'm trying to keep on top of all the questions and comments and chats.
I'll be here. I'll get in
Great.
more by
Good.
8
I'll have Eva. I'll adopt Eva as a panelist for me, and she can give me a hand, which would be great. Thanks, Eva. I appreciate that.
No problem. No problem.
So on that note, keep an eye on this Euro US. Keep an eye on the Aussie US. You see, right? You can see right now this thing did come right down to our target right here.
Oh, it did too. Look at that.
Yep.
I got out too early.
And on that note, everybody, you guys have a great rest of the day.
Yep. Have a good day, everyone.
And
Al,
yes, 888.
can you just jump in the room after we're done here?
Sure can. I'll see you in 888.
All right. See you guys later.
All right.
Enjoy
Bye,
the day.
everybody.